of all the lessons that I was battling this week that I should prepare, and I'll tell you, in the life of a preacher, it's very unique because, you know, when you're not a preacher, Sunday comes, Monday comes, and then you go on, and you know everything goes back to your routine of the week. But for a preacher, one Sunday ends, Monday comes, and then they think, okay, what do I preach for next Sunday? And of course, you always have some ideas in your mind, but then sorting through, it's a trick sometimes. But then you settle on a lesson, and then you work on that lesson. But of all the lessons this week, I decided to call the lesson today "Average Stinks." So you may say, what in the world is this lesson about? But I thought you would like my skunk there. But it is, we're going to talk a little bit about King Amaziah as we are starting the presentation today. And I would like to read the first two verses in 2 Chronicles. Speaking there of King Amaziah, says, Amaziah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years. His mother's name was Jehoaddin. She was from Jerusalem. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, but not wholeheartedly. So you have here a king that Scripture says that he did what was right in the sight of the Lord, but not wholeheartedly, not from his heart. And you know, as we talk about him today, I think that my encouragement is that we will try to identify ourselves in him, because although we try hard to do what was right in the eyes of the Lord, sometimes we fail. And Amaziah of all, he failed miserably in many ways. But it is my poster child, if you want to call it like that, for a person that is just average, just you know, trying to do what's right, but really didn't do it from his heart. Going back a little bit on the history, if you remember the history of Israel, after Solomon died, the nation of Israel was divided into two kingdoms. One is in the south, was the kingdom of Judah, and then Rehoboam actually was the king. This is right after Solomon died, and in the north, the kingdom of Israel, Jeroboam, was king. So this King Amaziah that we're going to talk about today a little bit, it's actually from the kingdom of Judah. Okay, so he was here from the south. Judah had about 20 kings. And Amaziah was what I call the most mediocre, insubordinate, and ungrateful among the 8 good kings. Can you say that? He was the most mediocre, the most average of the good kings. So as a new king, he started on the right track, but not too many years, and he ended up being really, really bad. Although he was called as being good, we're going to study about him some more, but Amaziah barely pretty much passed the name to be called good. Good king. So he was considered a good king. Actually, this is a quote from a scholar. He says that he was considered a good king because the bad ones were so rotten to the core and had not done anything good. So because he did something good, then he was called good. Okay, I don't know if that's a compliment to say, boy, he was the best kid in school just because everybody else was terrible. He was good because everybody else was really, really bad and rotten. So in 2 Kings chapter 14, verse 3 says, he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, but. You know, you hear something in the Bible, wonderful things, you know, and then there's a word, but, right? And you know something is going to happen, right? Kind of like what happened with Uzziah, if you remember. We studied about him a while ago. King Uzziah was actually his son. He's a great king. And you can study about Uzziah, wonderful king, and there's a long list of awesome things that King Uzziah did, but then at the end of that long list is but. And the passage there speaking about King Uzziah says that when he grew strong, his heart became proud. And then that led to his fall. But in this case, for his father, Amaziah, what was wrong with him? So he was right in the sight of the Lord, but his heart was divided. He didn't really follow God with his whole heart. It was just very mediocre. So his life was characterized by mediocrity, low commitment, and half-hearted measure. Maybe he wanted to do good for the Lord, but he didn't really want to do that from the bottom of his heart. He really didn't take it seriously. In today's term, he would be like a borderline, we call it patchy or flaky believer, right? Just, really want to do what's right, but not really, just depending on the circumstances. So he was not indifferent or inactive, but he was untrustworthy. He was unreliable and unpredictable. It's just average as a king. Sometimes, we talked earlier about erasing from our history some bad people, some good people that happened. Well, there's a lot that we can learn from a king like Amaziah. He was not great. He was not really good. And I think that could be said about many of our leaders that right now are vilified as being terrible. All leaders, right? Hundreds of years ago. There's no such person say it's a great person. And some were really bad, some were average, some were so-so. Definitely he was, as I mentioned, classic example of just an average person. So the king was not dishonest, but was not sincere. Right? Can you be that? I'm not dishonest, but I'm not sincere. Right? He was not unbelieving, but he was not really faithful. And sometimes you meet Christians like that in our day and age, and they just average. They just average. And that's why I say in today's lesson that average stinks. It's not good to be average. And by the way, when I say average stinks, this has nothing to do with me versus you. It has to do with you versus your average. You versus your average. We're not comparing here. I'm not suggesting one person is better than others, therefore you average, and one person is not average. When we're talking about this lesson and making the point that average stinks, it has to do with your average. Your average. An example is, for instance, if somebody asked you, how tall are you? And you can say, well, I'm 5'10". You're supposed to act like you're 5'10". Don't act like you're 5'2". And some people act like they are not they're right size, and they're getting away with it. And they're just fine to act like they are smaller. And this is not just about height. This is just about everything about them. They're just fine to not be at really where they should be. And really the reason for that is that we are comfortable to be where we're at. That is just one thing about human behavior. We reach a place in our life and we're okay to stay there. We are okay to be staying there, and we create a box of mediocrity, if you want, that we just pretty much stay in for the rest of our life. We stay there locked in that mediocrity. So most people, spirituality is about the same every year. There's some studies. Most people, right? Most people's income is about the same every year. They say that most people's weight is about the same every year. It's just, they say that every 5 to 10 years, everything kind of averages out. Okay, maybe you lose a couple pounds, gain a pound, but over 5-10 years, it just, majority of people are just about average. Just about average. So you have, even they've done some studies, and even in couples and in relationship, they figure out that depending on different couples, each couples have about the same number of fights every year. It's true. So yeah, a good relationship or a bad relationship, or how many fights do you have a year? And that will determine whether or not that's a good relationship or not. But it's just the average. It just goes out year after year. It's kind of the same. So my question is, why are most people average? Why are most people average? And the reason, actually, there's been some neuro-linguistic studying done, and if you study about neuro-linguistic programming, it talks about how being average is part of our DNA. We are just, most people get to a point in their life that, as I mentioned, they built a box of mediocrity and they just live there. You think about it with income, for instance, right? I mean, you go to school, you get a degree, right? And then you get a good job that pays you X amount of dollars, and then you say, okay, I'm fine with that. And then you stay there. You stay there, and then you can ask yourself, what can I do? Can I do to improve myself, to grow, to become even more successful? And some people are just happy to stay where they are. Happy to stay where they are. And it shouldn't, I want to challenge you this morning to not, be comfortable to stay in that box, to dare to go outside of that box. So to keep ourselves boxed in, we built an identity for ourselves inside that box when everything is on autopilot. Everything is it's so easy. I mean, you start a job, for instance, and in the beginning maybe it is a little challenging, but after a while it's kind of easy. You know how to do the job, and you just kind of coast, right? And you don't even have to do so much work anymore because you're so good at it. But instead of thinking, okay, I want to get out of this routine because I know I can do better, people just are okay to just stay in that box and not necessarily grow. So your average is never going to make you happy unless you're going to live to your true potential. And my point today, that is in your life, as a Christian, we all have potential beyond that which we are right now. All of us, we have potential to be a lot more than we are right now as Christians. So the time that we have today, we are going to try to answer the question of how do you get out of that box? How do you get over that wall? How do you get over that wall? You know, it may be uncomfortable to climb that wall. Yes, it's very difficult. My wife already gives me nonverbals. I don't know what she means, but it may take more than just what you're currently doing. It may be painful. But you must find a way to get over that wall, over that box, if you want to break from average. You know, maybe what some of the things that you used to do, maybe think about it, you have a career, think about it, you have a business. And you know, this applies also to when you are a Christian initially, when you're baptized. You know, you had a certain goals in mind, but then as you evolve, your goals have changed, but your plan didn't necessarily at one point change. I'm going to give you an example with a business, for instance. You start a business, and what is your initial plan when you start a business, right? To stay afloat, to really make enough money so the business doesn't go under. And that is the business plan. I want to just make sure my business doesn't die. And then 5-10 years go on, you're doing all right, but did you change your business plan, or you still where you were 10 years ago? Right? So my challenge to you is that you can develop a vision, and you, by work and by effort, you can climb over that wall. And then you don't have to be blocked in your average where you've been for a number of years. So how do I begin? Where do I start? Today we're going to talk about 4 steps of how you break from that mediocrity. I have 20 minutes, 5 minutes per step. Okay? Bear with me here. I know it's getting hot in here, but John, is that AC working, sir? I hear it, but I'm not sure. It feels awfully hot in here. I know outside is blistering. It's working. Very good. So the first step in changing your average, again, I'm not talking about comparing you with another person. I'm talking about comparing yourself, your average, to where you can be. This is not an exercise that you should compare yourself. Oh, I'm average. I guess other people are better than me. It's you versus who you can become. So the first step in changing your average is to accept that you are not where you want to be in life. And you can say, you know what? Really? I'm not what I need to be in life? Because once you accept that, instantly an outcome appears, and that you will have to figure out where you want to go. And that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. It even touches on some insecurities, right? If I tell myself, you know, I'm not where I need to be, that means I'm doing something wrong. Maybe there's something more I need to do. And that's not a comfortable conversation to have with yourself. And that is the main reason, the first reason why people decide to just stay where they are. Because it's not easy to ask yourself those questions. You know, once you decide that, yes, I can do better than what I'm doing right now, then you can climb over the wall, and then you get a track to run on. Then you have a path in front of you, as opposed to, I'm fine where I am here in the box. Every day is the same. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. Hard as it is. So the path from where you are to where you want to be, that is actually, it takes pain. You have to do it. People don't like pain. And people don't do whatever they're supposed to do because it's painful. And it is painful. Success is available to all. Path to success have already been determined, whether you want to be a great Christian or a great entrepreneur or a great, anything great you want to be. You can be that person that is great, but you need to let go of what you've been doing up to this point in your life. And yes, sometimes will be hard. My wife, as you know, she had surgery this week, and she's supposed to, the doctor gave her some kind of solution to just clear her sinuses. I'm not going to get you into details. To me, I don't care, right? Nothing grosses me out. And my wife is happy because, you know, when you go to medical school, you see crazy things and then a little saline run through your sinuses. It's all right. But my wife is like, honey, I don't want to do it. Well, honey, you have to do that. No, I don't want to do it. And something that she said yesterday, I captured there. She says, it's very not nice. Yes, it's very not nice. So you know what? Getting out of your box, it's very not nice. I'd rather just be cozy and just be what I do every day. And I'm happy to, I don't have to read, you know, a book every week. I don't have to study. I don't have to push myself. I don't need to beat myself. I can just be where I am. I'm happy where I am. Average is fine. But if you want to not be average, because we're not meant to be average. A lot of people, unfortunately, they stay in the average. But my challenge to you today is not to be content with average. And again, the first step in accepting, in changing your average, that you need to accept that there's better places you can be in life for your spiritual welfare, but not only for your spiritual. This can apply in every area of your life. So once you accept that there's better places to go, once you accept, yes, there'll be pain, then you have a path in front of you, and then you can start a new business plan or a new way for you to get wherever you need to be. So yes, in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 27, you know, talk about pain. Paul there says, like an athlete, I punish my body, treating it roughly, training it to what it should, not what it wants. Otherwise, I fear that after enlisting others for the race, I myself be declared unfit in order to stand aside. Paul here is speaking, and he's speaking about punishing his body, training it to what it should do. It's not fun. It's not fun to just want to be more. It takes pain sometimes, but it's worth it. So that is the first step. Accept that there's more, there's better, there's a better average. You can raise your average level to where you can be better. Second step is that you have to decide that you're going to do whatever it takes. And decide is not talk. You know, talk is cheap, but decision is very different than talking, right? Somebody can say, oh, I'll do that, honey. Oh, I'll do that, my friend. And then they don't do it. It's like, okay, but you said you decide. Well, you didn't really decide, right? Did you decide? Well, then do it. Do it. So many people say, okay, I'll do it, but they don't really do it. Something happens, they figure out it's hard, and they just pull back. They know that reading the Bible is important. They know prayer is important, but it just takes so much time, and it's just cumbersome, and they just don't do it. So you need to decide, not just talk and say that you're going to do it. Decide. You have to move towards what is it that you want. I don't know if you play, they say that watch where people's feet move. You know, if you're bowling, I don't know, do you bowl? Somebody here likes to bowl? You know, they say when you bowl, the ball is going the direction of your feet, right? But there's a great lesson in that, because you can see if somebody really want to change or really want to break of that average just by the direction they are going. They could say, yeah, I want to do that, but they go in the other direction. I mean, you cannot tell me that you really, really want to go to school. Bradley, I'll pick on you. I know you want to become a teacher. And you can say, I want to be a teacher one day, but you don't go to school, you don't study, you drop off your classes. Well, are you really going to be a teacher? I don't think so. And everybody can see, well, where your feet are going. If your feet are going towards becoming a teacher, you will become a teacher. So that is one thing that you have to decide, and you have to go for it. So how do you become that person to really decide? You need to decide to move towards what you want. You need to know what it is, and you need to decide to go towards it. And yes, it takes effort. But if you don't move towards it, and Bradley, you and I talked last week, yes, it takes a while, but a little bit at a time, you moving towards it. There's no doubt in my mind that they will be at the end of the tunnel, and then you'll be able to get your teaching degree, and you'll be done. And then you go to do greater than other more wonderful things. But if you don't move in that direction, you're never going to achieve that, whatever it is that you're seeking. So that's where you are now and where you want to be. So understand, when you're deciding, you need to understand that there's a disparity between where you are and where you want to be. Some people, they don't want to acknowledge that. There's a distance. You know, what you want is here. Where you know you can be is here. And you need to accept that there's disparity between the two. Right? So the difference between them, actually, it's you being a different person. And that's how you build the bridge. You becoming a different person. Right, Bradley and everyone? So that's what you gotta do. Whatever it takes. If you want to improve in every area, if you want to improve in the area of Bible study, for instance, in the area of prayer, drawing closer to God, you have to understand that you are here and you want to be over here. And you need to just take a step in that direction so you are right here. Right. So, to not be average, we must be intentional about what you're putting in your mind. You know, one thing about what you put in your mind, our mind is incredible. There have been some studies done about this, and they say that whatever enters your mind, it stays there. It never leaves there. You know that? Whatever you're watching, whatever you fill in your mind with on the internet, reading, it stays there. It stays there. It never really erases itself. You may forget it, but it's still there. It comes back at times. So keep that in mind. So you need to learn, you need to draw yourself towards what it is that you are interested so that you fill your mind with that. 1 Timothy chapter 4, we have there young Timothy being instructed by Paul. And Paul is telling him, do not let anyone despise your youth, but be an example to the believer in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, in purity. He was a youth. I don't want to speculate how old was he, but he was a youth. So this is probably even, you can apply that he's talking to some of you that may be a youth right now. I'm not a youth anymore. I was a youth once. He was talking to me here. But Paul tells him that till I come, give attention to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. Do not neglect the gift that is in you, which was given to you by prophecy, with the laying of hands of the eldership. Meditate on these things. Give yourself entirely to them, that your progress may be evident to all. So Paul is telling him pretty much, don't just settle and be mediocre. You have to be diligent in studying and reading. Why? So that progress may be evident to all. We all need to see progress in all of us. We have a commandment that we grow. We can't just reach a place in our life we can say, here we are. We are where we are, and we find where we are. That is not the pattern of scriptures. We have to continuously grow. So in 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 7 also says, don't waste time arguing. Again, Paul is talking to Timothy. Don't waste time arguing over foolish ideas and silly myth and legends. Spend your time and energy in exercise of keeping spiritually fit. That's what we are supposed to do. We need to take time to stay spiritually fit. So, you know, they say that you have to risk your muscle to make your muscle better. You know that? My daughter Elena knows that. I mean, she exercises quite often. And she comes to me, oh, Daddy, my body is just my muscles, my legs. Like, what did you do? Oh, I had to work out. Oh, really? So in order to strengthen the muscle, you have to work the muscle to put them through all kinds of challenges. I'm sure your muscle wants to say, just relax, chill, right? That's what your muscle is telling you when it's hurting, right? And then 2 days later, it tells you some more because of lactic acid accumulation. Oh man, the whole 2 days, if I would run right now, I'd be like dead. So, bottom line point here is that you have to risk your muscle to make the muscle better, and you have to do the same thing with your mind. You need to challenge it, to stimulate it. Yes, my mind may say, give me a break, give me that remote. I just want to crawl and do nothing here. But if you want to really get to the place you want to be, spiritually, mentally, in every regard, you have to stimulate your mind. Your mind is like a muscle. And the more you engage your mind in exercises and really moving it in the direction you give it to go, the more likely that you're going to get there. The same thing with the muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it's going to be. So, that's what you do. You see what spiritual people do, and you learn that they do different things, how to do them, their routine. And then if you want to become more spiritual, take after people that are spiritual. See what they're doing, see their routine, and then do what they do. You see, that's the quickest way to reach success. You can invent it for yourself, or you could go after people that actually they are successful and see what's working for them and what's not working for them. Third step is that you have to change how you see you. Change how you see you. So you have to change your identity and how you perceive everything that you're doing. So we need to work on what it is that we want and stop dreaming about it. Some people, want to get something and they're just so far out. Yeah, one day. One day. Instead of just taking steps right now to do what needs to be done right now. In the car today, I was listening to a song. I don't know the author, but the person was saying that it's the ride. It doesn't matter where you go, where the direction. It says, doesn't matter. I wrote it down. Ain't about how fast I get there. Ain't about how fast I get there. Well, it doesn't really matter how fast you get there. So Bradley, does it matter if you're going to be 78 when you finish college? When you get to finish? Sometimes it feels like that, doesn't it? It matters how fast you get there. And you know what? Let's just plan to get there before you retire, right? Otherwise your dad's going to kill you, right? So it matters, and we are conditioned, with songs that we listen sometimes. So it does matter. Don't just dream about it, act on it. So for most people, getting what you want is negotiable. I have there a cup of drink from Starbucks, and I put it there to remind me of a situation at work because, whatever you want, I'm sure you can say the same thing about people that you work with sometimes. They complain and they say, you know what, I'm living paycheck to paycheck and life is just miserable. But every single time they come to work, they have a Starbucks. And it's like, boy, how in the world you can afford to have a Starbucks every day? But those are the people, and listen to me, I'm not telling you people that drink Starbucks that's terrible. But you know what? For people that are seeking success, there are certain non-negotiable. To them, it's okay if they have a Starbucks every day. I used to go with my daughters to a place near my house called Ding Tea until I realized that every time you get one cup of tea, it's like $7, $6. And then if you get three drinks, it's like $30. I mean, if you go the whole family, forget it. It's like a meal. We're not going there, honey. We're just going to, I don't know, have water or something. And, it's not about the fact that you may even have the money, you know what I'm saying? But, don't complain, you know what I'm saying, that, I don't have any money, but then you spend, $7 drinks every day. That drink looks beautiful. Don't get me wrong. But, it's something what I call, for most people, getting what you want is negotiable. And what does that mean? That means that if I want to be from one place to here, it's negotiable. I don't have to get there. But if you decide that you're going to get there, then you have to make decisions now to be consistent with how to get there. I mean, if you say, I want to save money to buy a house one day, but you eat every day at McDonald's and then that's not very, I guess, eating out and going to Starbucks every day, and then you spend money and you're not careful about how you're spending your money, good luck saving for a house or whatever you want to get, whether it's a car. So that's why you have to be disciplined, and you have to have non-negotiables in your life to say, no, I'm not going to get that. You have to tell your body, no, I'm not going to do that because I got a bigger plan in mind, right? So getting what you want has to start to be non-negotiable and actually working on what it is that you want. Unfortunately, people, what you want, it's negotiable. Well, I may get it or I may not. But if you put your mind, that's non-negotiable. I'm going to do that no matter what. Like in Wisconsin, people say, I'll do it or die trying. That's non-negotiable. So it has to do with something that clicks in your mind to where you understand that you're not going to be happy just with where you are. And there's the fact that you accept that there's more that you can do. So when you talk to yourself, there's a quote there. Somebody's mother said it. When you talk to yourself, what's your language, they say. Have you heard that before? When you talk to yourself, what's your language? Because you're listening. So it is very important, to accept that you are controlling the communication inside your head. Whatever's happening in your head, you're controlling it. And yes, you may have been told when you were a kid, you are no good, you're not going to amount to nothing, Yeah, but you don't have to let that stop you. You don't have to listen to that voice, although that voice is in your head. Right? And sometimes we hear those voices. But we need to suppress those voices. So how much you're going to accept the power of your own influence over yourself and take really the accountability for it and really understand where the problem is. The problem is right here in your head. Don't blame it on other people. Whatever you're trying to accomplish, it's so easy to shift the blame. It's nobody's fault. Buttercup, it's you. It's you. So the reason I'm not where I'm supposed to be, the problem is sitting in my head. Make no mistake about it. Don't blame anybody. Yeah, you have a rough childhood, so what? I think they say that Beethoven, his father was an alcoholic, his mother had schizophrenia, and look at him, right? Was it him or Mozart? One of that. So you cannot just have excuses. If you have excuses, it is just a front to get you to where you're not going to do what you're supposed to do. So 2 Corinthians chapter 3:18 says, but we all with unveiled face beholding as in a mirror the glory of God, of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory just by the Spirit of the Lord. Paul there says that we are transformed. As Christians, we are supposed to be transformed. From glory to glory means from getting better and better and better and better. Paul there carries the idea that you cannot just be in a box and stay there for the rest of your life. You need to grow. To grow to the point that you are a perfect image of the glory of Christ. That's who you're supposed to emulate. And you should never settle in a place that you found yourself comfortable to just stay in that space of average. Fourth and last point is changing your average is that you have to surround yourself with the right people. Jim Rohn, I don't know if you guys know Jim Rohn, but if you don't, he died a few years ago, about 5 years ago he died. But he said that you are the average, you may have heard this, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Did you know that? Whoever you spend your time with, that's who you're going to become like. So choose wisely. So Amaziah had some good people around him, but he did not listen to them. In 2 Chronicles, it says there, when King Amaziah returned from the slaughter of the Edomites, he brought with him idols taken from the people of Seir, set them up as gods, bowed before them, and burned incense to them. This made the Lord very angry, and he sent a prophet to demand, why have you worshipped gods who couldn't even save their own people from you? Isn't that a good question? And then Amaziah, full of wisdom, verse 16 says, since when I have asked your advice, be quiet now before I have you killed. So you see, he had good people around him, but he didn't listen to the good people. Did not listen to the good people. So you are, as Jim Rohn says, you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of the time with. I can guarantee that Amaziah wasn't spending too much time with the prophets of God. He could have if he wanted to. He didn't. So you are becoming like the 5 people you spend time with. You take on their expectations. You take on their standards. Average people are numb. Become numb. Pretty numb after when it comes to the group that they are following. And we are like sheep, right? Just kind of conglomerate, and before you know it, you're part of a group. And that's who you are. Very mindlessly, you can drift toward just being part of a group that is not intentionally picked up. So surround yourself with people that you want to be like. If you don't have somebody like that in your life, maybe you can have like an audio mentor, read audiobooks, read somebody's book. You can become a mentor just by reading everything that a certain person has ever wrote. Or you can have Bible mentors. There's plenty of those in the Bible that you can follow. Start modeling their behavior and figure out what they are doing, how they got where they got. There's something that they did maybe that you're not doing now. And if you do that, you can be like them too. I have here Hebrews 11, as you're familiar with this section, is the Museum of Faith. You know, it talks about Noah, talks about Abraham, talks about Isaac, Jacob, and you can go after those people and you can just see what those people did that was so special and copy those people, pray like those people, have the routines of those people, and you can become like them too. And you can break out of that average. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 32 and 34 says, "And what more shall I say? For the time would fail me to tell you of Gideon and Barak and Samson and Jephthah, also of David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, worked righteousness, ordained promises, stopped the mouths of lions." Nothing average in that, okay? "Quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword. Out of weakness were made strong, became valiant in battle, turned to fight the armies of the aliens. Women received their dead, raised to life again by faith, okay? Raised from the dead. Others were tortured, not accepting deliverance, that they might obtain a better resurrection. Still others had trial of mockings and scourging, yes, and of chain and imprisonments. Whatever it takes. You think we have it hard? Maybe that's the problem. We have it so easy, right? They were stoned. They were sawed in two, were tempted, were slain with the sword. They wandered in sheepskin and goatskin, being destitute, afflicted, tormented. And look at verse 38, "of whom the world was not worthy." This is what it takes to not be average. Now, you don't necessarily have to be cut in two with a saw, but it takes effort, right? It takes effort. And the very next chapter, actually, it says, "Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight, every sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." That's what we are to do. No mediocrity. We are supposed to run a race. We're running into a race. We're not at a standstill and just chilling. We are running a race. And verse 2 says, "Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith." That's who we're looking. That's to whom we're running towards. "Who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." So you see, brethren, there's nothing average about that. We cannot be in the state of average. We cannot be in the state of average. So to end up, my conclusion is that you are living the life you're really choosing to live. You know that? Think about that. You are living the life you're choosing to live. Nobody is choosing that life for you. You have freedom to choose the life that you want to live. So don't live an average life, because average stinks. Okay? Do not live that life. So what you do to get rid of that average life, accept that you're not where you want to be. Decide not to be average. Know that the problem is you right here in your head. Nobody else but you. And number 4, surround yourself with the right people. If you don't do this, you want to change, good luck. So with that, please open your hymn books. This brings my lesson to a close, but we don't want to end without providing an invitation to whoever may want to consider coming to the Lord, giving your life to Him. The last passage that we saw says, "Run with endurance towards Christ, the race that is set before us." And if you're here in this room and you're not engaged in that race, I ask you, I challenge you to come forward and let us help you in every way that we can, as together we'll stand and we'll sing the invitation song.